I invite you to enjoy the chapel in the back of the sanctuary and note joys and concerns in the book. If you have little ones, we have a nursery downstairs, and after our service, I invite you all downstairs to enjoy hospitality and to greet one another. Finally, please note the announcements in your order of service, with many ways to be engaged in our vibrant community.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Forrest, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees here at the South LA Unitarian Universal Society. Come, whoever you are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. You are welcome here whether you... I skipped a line. No matter who you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears. You are welcome here. If you come here with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands, you are welcome here.
Good morning. As we continue our work of weaving the web of community, today we stop for a moment and feel the earth under our feet as holy land that was not empty land when our ancestors arrived, when we arrived, whenever that was, but that life was happening, history, culture, family life, love, and death. And that the coming of settlers disturbed this fabric that had been woven over centuries, even millennia, before the settlers arrived. Let us pause in the glory of this autumn and that one more hour of sleep. You guys look much better than usual. Maybe we need to keep having the service an hour later every day, every Sunday. We have here in this sanctuary, in this community, a great chance to transform the ordinary elements of our lives into instruments of peace. And we need peace. I think that almost every one of you would agree. Do we need peace? Yes. That's a little lukewarm. Do we need peace? Yes. So together we gather in hope. In hope in spite of the news. In spite of our feelings of impossibility when we know what is going on, what has gone on in this government. There is much talk of resistance, and I don't think that simply resisting something you don't agree with is enough. We must resist ourselves into a new way of being. As the people at Standing Rock forged a new way of life as they resisted the pipeline. And that new way of life remains. Here in this sanctuary and in our personal lives, instead of simply resisting war and lying and so much else and getting stuck there, let us fashion together a new way to live. And at the foundation of that new way of life in this place we live and love called Utah, let us acknowledge and understand this history that blesses our lives. I invite you, when we walk the mountains, the paths around lakes, and down the streets around our homes, let us remember others have walked before us. Today, we happily welcome an elder of the Ute people, Forrest Cuch, to hear his wisdom. This was their land. This is their land. I invite us all, let us breathe together, and as we rise and sing in body or spirit, let us find our connection with this earth on whose bounty we depend for life. Let us rise in body or spirit, and we will sing hymn number 203, All Creatures of the Earth and Sky.
lights our chalice.
We light this chalice, Lord.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amber Hawkins Warren, I like to call myself, and this is why I'm here. We left Mormonism a little over 2 years ago. My concerns about the role and treatment of women, the cover-up and subsequent whitewashing of LDS church history, and the utterly non-transparent use of tithing money were all things I was struggling with. But it was the religion I was raised in. The religion I felt defined me, the religion of my entire family. I remember specifically deciding to continue in that religion despite all of these things, because I thought it was trending in a better direction than it had in its past. Even though it wasn't true with a capital T for me anymore, it could still be good. But then in November 2015, when the church's new policy came out, we decided that it wasn't even good. LDS faith transitions are a tricky business. Because the religion is all-inclusive and restrictive, leaving can induce a free fall. But I was lucky to have a partner who had started the process a good while before me and was by my side every step of the way. I also found immense comfort and instruction in reading Thich Nhat Hanh and other Zen masters. I started practicing mindfulness, and I learned much by listening to amazing sermons I found online from a progressive Protestant church. We went to a Presbyterian church near our home in American Fork for many months. In Christianity, I found grace. I loved the idea of grace being freely given and without constraints, not being something we had to work hard to deserve, but was something we just received. Progressive Christianity became a soft place for me to land for a while. But I found that in almost every sermon at our local Presbyterian church, I left feeling frustrated and dissatisfied. They were so convinced I was broken and in need of repair. Plus, I couldn't stomach the idea of the word with a capital W being the only thing I ever needed to hear. I found that the world had cracked so wide open for me that there was no longer room for certainty. Christianity was too small, let alone Mormonism. I looked at people in an entirely new way. There's so much to be learned from everyone. And I felt that there was no way that one religion had all the answers for every single person on this planet. That is what led me to Unitarianism. We had come here a couple times, and I loved Patty's sermons and the music. But it was so far from where we lived. It's a very long drive. We're always late, and we're always prepared back. Last January, we started coming more consistently, and I found that it was a great fit philosophically for us. I feel so passionately that there is no one-size-fits-all when it comes to faith and belief. I couldn't believe that there was actually a religion that recognized that. So when I found it and read more books about the UU philosophy, I knew it was going to be a good fit for my family and for me. I am so happy to find a place where we can continue to learn and grow and understand more without guilt or shame or repercussion. I remember the first time I ever came to SVUS, and Patty said something about how here you can ask any question you want. You could further your study of any religion, and this community would support you in that journey. This place is special and unique. And I like that it doesn't promote a specific creed or provide easy answers to life's most existential questions. It encourages individual study, rationalism, kindness, acceptance, and care. And that is why I'm here.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you. We're happy you're here too. Now I invite you, the choir is going to come up and sit. And then I would like all of the children and the young at heart to come and sit and listen to a new story, a new take on a very old story.
I told you, come sit with me.
I was sitting down.
In the meantime, the wolf will speak from the pulpit. I invite you now, and I wish I were closer to you guys down there, because...
Then get closer.
And Forrest, I invite you because if my memory fails, you can add parts of this story. But this is the story of, and actually this shouldn't be completely wolf, but half wolf and half person. And this, this is a very, very special wolf from a story that is the creation story of the Ute people. And we are very blessed that Forrest Cuch is here, and he is of those people. So this story that happened long, long ago, there was a wolf who was also a god. Would you say that's true? Okay. And he had many, many friends and brothers. And one of his brothers was... Can anyone make that sound? And the earth was a beautiful place. And he started thinking, I don't know why, because humans have made such a mess of the earth, but he started thinking that the earth needed humans. And so he collected twigs. Can you help me collect these twigs? And they're all going to go into that bag there. The bag that the coyote's carrying. She'll come by, she'll come by. So what is my name here? Sinnoh. So all of these twigs were in the shape of humans. And Sinnoh, of he wanted to walk across the land and have humans and decide where would be the best place for the humans to live. And so he began his journey, okay? He began his journey, and as he began, and I'm going to ask you guys to help, the humans started to come out of the bag. The coyote started taking them out of the bag too. So as he was walking and looking, he was looking all over for the best place for humans to live. That trickster coyote was taking the twigs out, and they were coming to life and becoming humans. But the wolf didn't notice because the wolf was tired and hungry. So he just kept walking, and he didn't notice the coyote at all until he came to the top of the beautiful mountain, and he said, here is where humans can live. And then he looked in his bag. Most of them were gone. So he had to take them out, only a few of them out. Thank you. There are going to be quite a few living on the top of this mountain. And then all of these humans came to life and began their life on this beautiful land, scattered in many, many places. And then when he looked out, what he saw, he saw the bad coyote. But maybe the coyote had played an important role, and he put humans in many, many places. And then when the wolf looked and saw where everything, all of these humans were living, he sang a song. And since we don't know that song, we perhaps could have asked Forrest to sing that song. But we're going to have our choir is going to sing our own song of praise for the earth. So all of you just stay where you are, and the choir will sing to you. invite you into our time of meditation, which today will be a ritual of remembrance. And I hope that it is also an opening of hearts to this work of truth and reconciliation with the peoples who were here on this land when my own ancestors arrived in 1847. And I know many of you arrived around that time, and later, and some of you in 2015. We are all people, and some even, any from 2017? Oh yes. We are all, whether it is 1847 or last week, we are all newcomers to this land. And to begin this work of truth and reconciliation, I invite you into a time 151 years ago. Let us breathe together, remembering the earth under our feet, the beautiful earth we love so much, and above us sky and clouds and atmosphere up farther and farther into that place where stars are born. And that stars were being born 151 years ago in a small town called Circleville. Today we are marking our map. We have just marked our map to show that place. Catherine, would you come up with me? It's right in the middle of Paiute territory, right in the middle. So I invite you into that time. For Circleville now has a monument that has just been put up. And in 1865 to 1868, there were wars around that area. They were called the Black Hawk Wars. How many of you have heard of the Black Hawk Wars? There's a lot of studying needs to go on in this room. But the Black Hawk Wars were very serious wars, and Circleville was the site of the largest massacre of Indians in Utah's history. April 21st, 1866, Circleville's settlers, white settlers, received word that 2 Paiutes had shot a member of the Utah militia. And the settlers, LDS church leaders in Circleville, decided they needed to disarm the Indians. The Paiutes, men, women, and children, were told to come to town. Those who refused were brought in. Roughly 30 people were imprisoned in a cellar. Apparently unsure of what to do, the settlers sent word up to talk with the LDS apostle, Erastus Snow. But before they received a response, the settlers had killed all but 2 of the people who they had put in that place. It is believed that they were buried in a mass grave in the cellar of an unbuilt mill, but they have not yet found those remains. And this band, of whom these people were a part, has continued to exist. For a while, there were very few people after this devastating tragedy, but today there is a small but continuing Cuch band of the Paiutes, although they were not direct descendants of the people who died in the massacre. And once the Indian Wars had ended, the valley again attracted Mormon settlers, the ancestors of today's Circleville residents. And just about a year ago, a monument was dedicated to these people who died. The image on the monument at the request of the Paiutes is an eagle in flight, symbolizing the journey of the dead to their final rest. This is what the inscription reads: "In remembrance of the innocent who were lost in this place so long ago, none of us could ever hope to describe the feelings of emotion that these people might have felt. All we can do is honor their existence as human beings. In this sacred place, as a sacred step, for although my ancestors were not in Circleville, they were just over the mountains in other places, and they were all around here, as many of your ancestors were. And I invite you into a time of silence when we honor those who died, when we remember. For I believe the greatest violence we can do is to forget. As we remember, I will ring the bell 30 times. And I invite you to consider the place, the part that each of your ancestors have played in these events in Circleville and at Bear River. My ancestor fed the soldiers on the way to Bear River, the Bear River Massacre. I invite you to enter a time of contemplation as we ring the bells, remembering those who were lost on that day. If any of you would like to ring the bell with me, I invite you to come up. If any of you would like to do that, please do. Let us remember those people huddled in a place under the earth, wondering what would happen. Let us remember that when our hearts turn to fear in our present world. And let us reach out with our hands and hearts in reconciliation. We will have one more minute of silence, and then I will invite you to sing. I will not invite you to sing. I will invite you to listen to music. Remember the part our ancestors played in so many parts of this country, not just Utah. Some of you are not from here, do not share this history. But if you are living on this land, you have played a role in the history of this land. You are a part of it. May our hearts open to reconciliation, and the first step is not making history disappear. Let us have that history alive among us. Amen, and may it be so.
Serving our wider community. It is our practice to share our worship service offerings with a charitable organization whose works align with our values and principles. For November and December, we will donate half of our offerings to the Hurricane Maria Community Relief and Recovery Fund. This is created to help the most vulnerable communities in Puerto Rico that have faced terrible destruction and have little resources to aid in their recovery. All donations to this fund will be used to support immediate relief or long-term equitable rebuilding. Will you join me with me now in saying words printed in the order of service for your offering? We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the love of this community and sustain it with our gifts. The Hurricane Maria Community Relief and Recovery Fund organization thanks you for your use.
One year ago, I left for Standing Rock, my first visit there. And I invite you into that place that was such a place of reconciliation that I became filled with hope that perhaps we, as a community, could join that work, that could be a part of who we are as a community. And I invite you after this service to spend time talking with Forrest. And I invite you to come and talk with me and bring all your concerns. And I hope that you also bring your hopes to be a part of this work that is so desperately needed, I believe, in this land. Forrest Cuch was born and raised on the Uinta and Ora Ute Indian Reservation in northeastern Utah. The book that he edited about the native peoples of Utah has become a kind of Bible to me, all of those stories. The creation story you heard, of which I forgot, I'm sure, some very important parts because I could not hold the puppet and my book at the same time. But I invite you to read that story and read that book and the amazing cultures that had existed here for millennia and for centuries. Forrest Cuch graduated from Westminster College in 1973 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Behavioral Sciences. He served as the education director of the Ute Indian tribe from 1973 to 1988. And then from 1988 to 94, he was employed by the Wampanoag tribe in Gayhead, Massachusetts, first as a planner and then as a tribal administrator. And then from October of 97, he was director of the Utah Division of Indian Affairs, and he did that for many years. I wonder where my ancestors crossed paths with his ancestors. Did they meet in peace or war? And possibly a combination of the above. And I know that the simple presence of my ancestors, my great-grandmother's grandmother, Patty, whose name I bear, had an orchard stretching down to the Great Salt Lake. That her orchard, that making of orchards and fences, was a source of suffering to his people. And in that acknowledgement, I am grateful from the bottom of my heart that he is here to speak with us. I'm grateful for his generosity of heart. Let us welcome Forrest Cuch to this holy place.
Our Father, I humbly ask that you be with me. You know what I share with these people, these wonderful people, Father, will be good. You enrich their lives, give them strength, I hope. very honored to speak before you, Unitarian believers, seekers of the truth. You know a little bit about your church. I respect that very much. Thank you for inviting me to be here. Reverend Patty, thank you so much. And I have great respect for you. You are a blessing to this congregation, to all of us, because you are facing the truth of your own heritage, and your presence here, your ancestors, what happened in the past. And that takes courage. And it takes courage to go up and support the water protesters, the capital water protesters in North Dakota, just to deal with those elements. So much respect for you. Those people were doing the work of God, and they were standing up. They were represented David fighting Goliath. And I have so much love and respect for my traditional people for doing that. And regarding the discussion about Circleville, what came to mind is vengeance is the Lord's. It's not mine. Vengeance is the Lord's. And it's really sad. People struggle with the history of what took place here in your time. And a lot of the time people ask, well, what are we supposed to do? What can we do? And I always say, well, first of all, it's important to apologize and to own up truthfully what happened. But that's not enough. It's like I heard earlier, some Unitarians wanted more than what Christianity could offer sometimes. Well, apology is not enough either. Because you also have to take some action to see that it doesn't happen again. You have to stop the exploitation and the harm. You can't continue to do it. Unfortunately, the LDS Church, the dominant faith in our state, has neither apologized nor have they stopped. They elect representatives like Representative Bishop, who has no regard for the native people, our lands, and our connection to the earth. Bears ears. Lots of meetings and deliberations were held to establish it. It was already reduced. At one point, it was, I think, Obama was proposed 1.9 million acres, and then it was reduced to 1.3, which it is today. So they've already attempted to reduce it so that it would only cover the critical areas. Well, Bishop, not only now, and Hatch, and our president, not only want to reduce it, now they want to liquidate it. So that's what I'm talking about. Not only do you apologize sincerely, but you take some action to make sure that it's not done anymore. Bishop is still exploiting the people, and it's unfortunate. Vengeance is the Lord's. Well, I'll give you an example of how that happens. There's a book coming out, and I'm one of the readers, one of the reviewers, and it's going to be a powerful. It's going to be very, very controversial. The book is called The Mormons Want Everything. Descriptive title. The authors are the esteemed Dr. Floyd O'Neill, Emeritus, University of Utah Western History, and my friend and colleague, both of them are friends, colleagues. But Floyd is more of a godfather. Will Bagley is a friend and colleague, worked for years. Well, Floyd is the editor, Will is the author. The book is coming out, and Will probably be excommunicated finally. the LDS Church will have to make a decision here. Do they want to acknowledge what happened and own up and begin a new relationship based on truth? Or do they want to continue to promote a superficial relationship with our people, which is meaningless, fraudulent, and goes nowhere, and continues the exploitation? I have many LDS friends. I'm going to confront them in a nice way and say, look, this is an opportunity to build a relationship. For the first time in this country, this state, not country, this state, will you take it? Because this is God's work here. This book is coming forward. Okay? So, anyway, that's going to be an opportunity. I hope they take it. Because I believe the only way people can heal is if it's based on the truth. That applies to our own lives, our own actions. We can't really heal and grow. And I shared with Reverend Patty my own experience with the Lord and her desire. I got a message a while back. The Lord has been waiting a long time for me to grow up. To see the truth, to see who I am, to own up to my weaknesses, my failures, and to grow up, be one with the Lord. I want to share with you a little bit something for the future. A while back I had the honor of meeting Francisco Ponk, is his name, Ponk, Francisco Ponk. He's a Mayan elder and educator and spiritual man from Guatemala. I visited his home, and he has been to my ranch in northeastern Utah. And he shared with me the real meaning of the 2012 prophecy. He said it has nothing to do with the end of the world. He said it has to do with the end of the cycle, an energy cycle. And he said, for 2,500 years, male energy has dominated the planet. And he said, according to their calendar and their deciphering of its meaning, the only remaining book, Popol Vuh, the 2012 era begins a new cycle, female energy. I'm proud to say my people are matriarchal, not patriarchal. He said there will be a dangerous time. The first 54 years will be very challenging because the male energy will be threatened. And right now, already, we're 5 years into it, the male energy has been manifested here. They're running scared. They feel a loss of power, and so they're exerting more and more power and violence. At the same time, truth is coming forth. Truth is coming forth that they're having to face. So again, the Lord works in strange ways. And so you can see that this is happening. And he said, so the first 54 years are going to be very challenging times, but if we get through it, we will have a kinder, gentler world to live in. And there will be more balance, because before 2012, imbalance completely. Male dominance, ferocious control, violence, rape, pillaging, all of those things. I want to share with you, when Columbus arrived here in this nation, it's glossed over too quickly what happened there. But if you really examine what he wrote in his journal, before I even express that, the values that Jesus taught of love, kindness, generosity, truthfulness, and fellowship, honor thy neighbor, or love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Right? Love all of God, Father, connection with the Lord. Well, when Columbus encountered those people, those native people, they were naked. And they came out, walking out, inviting them like this. Welcome. We're naked, they were welcome, they weren't afraid, they were fearless, they were kind and loving, and they were generous. Aren't those the values Jesus espoused? They weren't greedy. They said, here, come join us. There's plenty for all. But the problem is a judgment took place. A judgment that has continued to exist to this day. The judgment was, oh, although these people were childlike, because he kept referring to them as Dios, in Spanish, in Dios, in God, children in God, they're weak. This is a sign of weakness. We can control them. We can take everything they have, and we can continue to take. We can destroy them, and we can take everything. That was the judgment that was passed. These are not God-loving, fearing people, people who are kind, loving, and generous. These are savages. These are heathens. They are no good. And therefore, we can destroy them. And then, in history, we learn about civilization. The term civilization. And we, the savages. But I have to ask this question in the final, in the end of the story, who are the savages? Really, who are the savages? Are we not ravaging the world to this day? Are we not exploiting third world countries for their resources? Are we not even destroying our own resources in our own backyard? The beauty of this state. And we're taxing, we're raising taxes for the lower, the poor, the middle class, while giving tax breaks to the wealthy. I mean, really, we are not growing anymore. We are in decline. We're no longer civilized. We're acting like savages. And I heard a discussion, Charlie Rose was interviewing one of the scientists, spiritual leaders, I forget who it was, and the person said, well, the truth will always prevail, no matter what. And Charlie said, well, so I used to buy that. I don't buy it anymore. Because if we're not careful, and misinformation and rumor prevails, the truth can be bent, and we can be in decline. And we can decline into chaos. That's starting to happen this day. The Lord works in strange ways because they're going to have to face people like that. And me. And others like us. That's, I was telling everybody, that's what made this country great. Great people. Davy Crockett, besides City and Bull, Chief Warrior, Davy Crockett, one of my heroes. He was not an exploiter. He went among the Indian people and learned the skills to be a frontiersman. He could hunt and track with the best of them. And he was wonderful. And he praised what he learned from the Indian people. But he was also a statesman. He could stand up, and his oratory skills were unchallenged. He was incredible in that. He argued against the removal of the Cherokees vehemently. He said, this is wrong. And when they voted him out, when he lost the vote, he said, I'm out of here. And of course, he went to Texas, defended the Alamo, the rest of the story. Those are the people who made this country great, and they will continue to step forward. They're still out there. There's probably some in this crowd here who will stand up when the time's right. That young, beautiful woman that was here just earlier, talking about her own growth. she's one, and there'll be many more like that. One more comment, and then I'm running out of time. You've probably heard about the great philosopher Descartes and his concept of mind and body dualism. We call it Cartesian dualism. It's the war between the head and heart. With the male energy in control, we spend a lot of time up here. Where matriarchal societies operate from the heart. My people, we operate from here. We've struggled with science, we've struggled with business and commerce because we're heart people, we're earth people. Mind people are very strong in scientific world, commerce, things like that. And what happens is these two need to be congruent. If the head says yes and the heart said no, then there's incongruence. And if that continues to occur, then you have a separation. When you have that separation, head and heart, severed, that's when people become psychotic. Most of us are neurotic, having to deal with the struggles of life. But when we sever, we become psychotic. That's when we can pull the trigger and kill people in supermarkets, concerts, public settings, okay? That's what we're struggling with. We disconnected. Now, one of the things that keeps this connection together is ceremony. This is ceremony. Our people, our sweat lodge, Sundance, Vision Quest, all those things is what keeps us connected. And we connect to the earth. When you connect with the earth, you connect with God and universe, and or universe. So it's very important to keep that connection to the earth, to God the Father, God the universe. And then if we keep that connection through practicing, strengthening our ceremonies, we keep this connection strong. Head and heart. We do. Then we make the connection to heaven. Then we are whole people. So I just want to share that with you, my last comment for the future, for something to think about. And sometimes when you can't come to church, do a fast, go out in nature, go out and sit on the grass, walk barefoot, sit by the stream, talk to Father, talk to God, talk to the plants, the trees, make that connection. As long as you do that, you'll be strong. You'll be strong here. You'll keep the head and heart together, and you'll be strong at home, and you'll be able to join the fight with Patty and I. Thank you very much.
May we hold these words and weave them into this fabric that is our community. May we, each of us in our hearts, continue the work of remembrance. Stay with that remembering, always with a move towards reconciliation. And may we find the simple elements of our life material to make instruments of peace. May we find what is within the reach of our hands. In a work I wrote about my ancestor's life and how her life intersected with Native peoples, Lou and I wrote a song for the ending that is a prayer. It is a prayer for what we hope in this future. In her life, in her diary, she writes of a time that was full of danger. The Indians came into the camp, and they tried to keep them out, and they came back by another way. And then mysteriously, she wrote, "We danced." In her life, she danced with Indians on the plain in an event that could have become a massacre. There was so much fear all around. And she fed soldiers on the way to the Bear River Massacre, the bloodiest massacre of our history that took place in Idaho, just across the border. As she asks, what I ask you to ask yourselves, what is within the reach of our hands? May you consider, may we all consider, and my hope is that you will join me in this work of reconciliation. I hope that we have begun something today. I hope that you will gather with us after the service and listen, and that your minds will open to ways that you can be a part of reconciliation. Instead of amen, I'm going to sing you the prayer from the work that Lou and I wrote, Midwife, about my great-grandmother's grandmother who delivered 3,977 babies, the first in the Salt Lake Valley. This is her prayer. And Lauren, who's playing the cello, played with us when we went to New York last year. So, thank you, Lauren.
We live didn't get a chance to ring out the sound in my guitar, so I'm just going to play unplugged. You'll be able to hear it. The words to this song, Blowing in the Wind, by the way, it was written by Bob Dylan, are in your order of service, and I would really love it if you could sing along with it. The reason why I'm singing this is to mark the coming up auction, which is a week from yesterday, 6 days. The auction is one of South Valley's really amazing parties. So please consider coming, it's fantastic. What time is it on Saturday, anybody know? 6 o'clock, thank you.
Do we need tickets?
Yes. We have sale downstairs.
Fantastic. I'm sure you can get them at the door too, yes? Oh, yeah, more money. Which, by the way, all goes to us. All right. How many roads must a man walk down before he can call him a man? And how many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? And how many times must the cannonballs die before they forever land? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. And how many years must the mountain exist before it is washed in the sea? And how many years can some people exist before they're allowed to be free? And how many times can a man turn his head, pretending he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind. And how many times must a man look up before he can see the sky? And how many years must a man have before he can hear people cry? And how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Before we extinguish our chalice but not the light in our hearts, I invite any of you who are visiting, if you would like to stand and introduce yourself.